Which shoe is better to hoop in? The Curry Flow 9 or the Curry HOVR Splash? Today we're putting the Curry 9s from Steph's signature line and the Curry HOVR Splash from his new budget-friendly line head to head to see how they compare. So we'll be looking at and comparing like different performance aspects like the cushioning, materials, support, traction, just pretty much all the factors that go into deciding just how a shoe is going to play on the court. So starting off with some of the basics, the Curry 9s retail for $160. That does match the same price from the Curry 8 last year's model. And this is going to mark Curry's second shoe to release since he took over like a bigger role at Under Armour, and now his product is just kind of released more independently with like a new logo and all of that stuff going on. So honestly, I think this is a really clean shoe. I know it's kind of like rare to feel that way about Steph's line, but they did make some changes to this year's model though. You're gonna get like his new player logo show up on the ankle, and that's meant to resemble his like initials, of course, but also like flashing the 3-point sign. So I honestly think it's pretty tough, and that logo is also going to show up on the back of the heel, kind of like worked into the midsole. And the upper has this cool weave pattern that just looks and feels nice. Like, and on the tongue, you're going to get a patch with like some Curry branding and a pull tab there, which is, it's kind of weird. You don't really see like pull tabs show up on that spot very often. It's normally on the heel, but I mean, it does look like less changes are coming between this Curry 9 and the Curry 10 that are going to be releasing next. We'll just cross that bridge when we get there. But now looking at the Curry HOVR Splash, this is the first shoe to release as part of Curry's new budget-friendly line with like his special branding. So like they even got the same like box as the Curry 9s, which, you know, they retail for $50 lower at $110. They got the same box, but it's a pretty simple box. So I guess it's, you know, not all that surprising there. But that is going to be a little bit higher than the retail price of some other budget-friendly models, like, you know, the Giannis Immortality and the Kyrie Flytrap. They kind of fall more in that like $80 to $90 range, but honestly I think these are worth the extra money. But before I get into that, like, you know, what I said whenever I got this model in first was like the overall build of this shoe just really reminds me a lot of the Curry 8. And I'm not sure if like Under Armour was like trying to do that, kind of like play off of that model, but between this Curry HOVR Splash and the Curry 8, I do see a lot of comparisons. And then from the side, you're going to get that same Curry logo that shows up on the ankle, and then that same logo is also going to be on the tongue for this shoe. Then along the back is going to be some Curry text kind of like running up the like tab, I guess like the pull tab kind of along that backside. So I mean, I can be real here, these just not a ton of details to draw out on this model. Definitely some things I like, but just like nothing too flashy. So now we'll go ahead and see how these shoes hold up on the court. All right, so for the last half of this review, I'll hit on more of like the materials and the performance side for both of these shoes. So starting off with the cushioning, each of these models are going to be working with something different. The Curry Flow 9 has some UA Flow cushioning technology that is meant to be super light and bouncy. And then for the Curry HOVR Splash, you're going to get a responsive hover cushioning setup meant to reduce your impact and give you good energy return. That is kind of the way that Under Armour, you know, lays out these two models on their site. You know, and for these lines, for what's being used in the shoe, is actually going to make it into the title name as well. Like we have the Curry Flow 9, we have the Curry HOVR Splash, so you got that hover cushioning setup. But this section is one that surprised me a little bit. Like after being extremely soft last year, the Curry 9s definitely give you more of a responsive feel on this year's model. And the word that I think Under Armour used was like bouncy to describe these, and that's not exactly what I felt. Like they do take a little bit longer to break in and loosen up, but they still haven't, and they probably won't reach the level of softness of the Curry 8s. I mean, that's okay. Like I understand that happening from year to year, but I just really wasn't prepared for how this Curry HOVR Splash, like I wasn't ready for them to play like they do, which is going to be softer than the Curry 9s in my opinion. Now take note, I'm saying softer than, not just like plain soft, because whenever I tested these out, I actually did have my suspicions that I might like them a little bit more than the Curry 9s for cushioning. I am starting to see that come true now, but like softness, like it is going to come just from like an initial layer of cushioning, it feels like. So the HOVR Splash does reduce your impact. It's not really amazing for energy return, but it is a really balanced cushioning setup, so like nothing really sticking out in the forefoot or the heel. And both of these shoes do feel balanced, but I mean, for a budget-friendly model, they have kept pace really well with the Curry 9s. So the Curry 9s have that like foam like outsole and midsole. So I wasn't really shocked that they're like soft-ish reading, but I was more so just shocked that the Curry HOVR Splash could be like relatively soft for a tougher midsole. So now looking at the materials and the support, this is another spot that we're going to have more differences than we see similar stuff being used. So the Curry Flow 9 gets a UA warp upper with technology to provide enhanced comfort and control throughout your movements. And then along with that is going to be a breathable mesh tongue with like a pull tab for easy entry. We kind of talked about that already. And this just feels like a quality model. Like it doesn't feel cheap, and the upper does make your foot feel a lot more secure than the Curry 8s did. Like those had more of a knit upper compared to like this weave stitching pattern here. But the Curry 9s definitely lock your foot into the shoe. Like once you slide these on, it almost feels like your foot actually does like lock in. Like you have a molded collar around the back that helps with that a lot. And then there's also going to be some like orange lace loops in the middle of the foot. And it feels like there might be a midfoot band or something in there just to help like eliminating any movement. But either way, the Curry 9 plays really well for these two sections. The materials and support is kind of a spot where you'll start to see a budget friendly shoe can start to make itself known at least. And I do get that a little bit here with the Curry HOVR Splash. Like these have an ultra breathable mesh upper, engineered to be durable and to like help with high abrasion resistance. And I'll take a second here to add that both of these shoes are ridiculously light. Like the Curry Flow 9 only weighs 348 grams for a size 10.5. Now the Curry HOVR Splash is going to be right there with them, pretty much to the decimal, weighing 348 to like 350-ish grams. And literally that's like two of the lightest shoes that I've ever played in. And sometimes that does throw me off a little bit whenever we're talking about the quality, because it can almost feel like nothing was added into the shoe if it makes it that light. And that's not always the case though, especially not with the Curry 9s. But I mean, with the Curry HOVR Splash being this light, I would have liked to see some like more support features to kind of help with that, because the upper does move around a little bit on those hard movements. There just isn't really a lot there to help your foot feel locked in. Like normally I'd like to see a strap, an outrigger, like more overlays, something along those lines for the lacing system, just to help with the support, because you do somewhat get that with the Curry 9s. You just don't see it quite as much on the Curry HOVR Splash. So finishing off with traction, once again we are going to have some different setups being used. The Curry Flow 9 has a durable UA outsole that's there to provide better court feel, so you can cut, stop, and start faster than ever before. And durable is once again going to be Under Armour's words, not mine, because I mean you can just kind of feel, and I guess the durometer reading kind of shows that this has a softer feel to the outsole. I get that reading measured the midsole, but this whole bottom half of the Curry 9 is all made up of that like foam material that just doesn't feel very tough. It's not something that you would want to use outdoors because it will wear down very quickly, but without a doubt this is something that you should want for indoors. Like these have some glue hiding on there or something, like they have to with how well they stick to the floor. And like I said, like I think I mentioned it in cushioning, if I didn't, like there are a few models out there right now for like the Future X1, the Future X2, the Curry 8 and 9s, obviously using this flow outsole, and it has some of the best bite that I've ever felt on the floor from a shoe that I've used indoors. But now switching it over to look at the Curry HOVR Splash, this is going to have a rubber outsole that's actually designed for enhanced grip on outdoor courts. So because of that, you are going to get a much more durable feel to that rubber. And I mean, it does have kind of a random traction pattern with like some different waves and lines in there, but honestly, so does the Curry 9 setup. But you're not going to see any arrows or anything like that. But the traction is another strong point to this budget-friendly line. I will say it doesn't quite catch as hard as the Curry 9s from what I felt, but I haven't dealt with any slipping or just any consistencies at all on this model. And with the cushioning being at least up to par, definitely a really solid outdoor option to hoop in. But to finish off with sizing, these are going to be pretty much an identical fit. Your toes go like right there to the end. There's not a ton of room left over for the length. And these are going to be like, relatively narrow models. The Curry 9s do feel a little bit more snug compared to the Curry HOVR Splash. So if you like having more room to play in, or you just kind of have a wider foot, I would recommend going a half size up. So doing a quick rundown for the final ratings. For the appearance, I mean, I do like both of these models, but the Curry 9 does have a little bit more going on. I just like the new upper that these got, so I'll start off going with the 9s. But cushioning is a spot that I was definitely shocked. When I said the HOVR Splash might feel better in my first impressions video, I wasn't really sure if I meant it, but I like softer models to play in, and the Curry HOVR Splash does barely edge out the Curry 9 here. And as for the materials, I mean, simply put, the Curry 9 is just a higher quality model. Like, it would be way more concerning if a budget-friendly model that was cheaper just had a better feel, but there's nothing to worry about that with this here. And for the Curry 9, I think it does feel better for the support too. Like, there's less give to the upper, and then for me, it almost feels like these are like handcrafted for your foot. Like, once you slide them on, it feels like your foot just clicks in and it just doesn't move around. But to finish off with traction, both of these models actually perform really well for this section, but for total traction, I would have to go with the Curry 9 again. And that is going to lead to the Curry Flow 9 being the better shoe to hoop in. I mean, they offer some of the best grip on the court that you can get on the market right now. I wasn't super impressed with how the cushioning played this year, but I mean, it's a super light model and just really great for indoors. But the Curry HOVR Splash is no joke. Like, I mean, for a cheaper shoe, they still have some really nice impact protection, and the traction is pretty sticky. I mean, and with the outsole being more durable, definitely a shoe worth considering to hoop in outdoors. The materials and support, they weren't like, the best, but with the budget-friendly model, that isn't really out of the ordinary. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. If you made it this far, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like. We would greatly appreciate that. And if you're interested in buying the Curry Flow 9 and you want to support our channel, just click the link here on screen, or we have links down below for both shoes, so feel free to check that out. But until next review, I'm Len, shoe wear. Peace.